Hey everyone, my name is Alan Gongora. I'm managing partner of Langon Law Group. And today we'll be wrapping up our 4-part series on how to start a business in Colombia. If you haven't seen our first set of videos, I highly recommend that you go back and watch those first. And as always, let's get started with some things you should consider as we proceed with these particular set of tutorials. These tutorials are intended to help anyone interested in starting a new business in Colombia. For anyone purchasing an existing business or maybe expanding an existing business into the Colombian market, you will find these tutorials to be very, very useful. However, do check out our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page because we may have already published additional tutorials that may be more relevant to your own specific legal situation. The difficulty level for these tutorials is basic. This actually means that you don't need any prior understanding of this process, and you also don't need any specialized knowledge of the topic. It should be very, very user-friendly for anyone interested in starting a business in Colombia. As always, keep in mind that these tutorials are only intended to provide general observations and suggestions. Remember that I'm a licensed New York corporate attorney, and while everything you will hear and see has been reviewed and approved by Colombian attorneys, these tutorials are not intended to provide actual legal advice. We highly recommend that you consult with your own local attorney to discuss your own specific legal requirements. And with that out of the way, let's get started. If you've watched our prior videos, you now have a pretty solid foundation on this topic. But there is nothing like a nice practical summary to get a better sense of how everything fits together. And that's the purpose of this video. We want to put all the major issues and themes together in one place so you can have a much clearer idea about how foreigners can start a business in Colombia. Remember that the actual mechanics and chronology may vary quite a bit depending on the attorney that you use, the proposed business plan for your business, and the specific strategy involved. I'm just going to describe the way our local law firm would normally recommend that you proceed. Bottom line, we consider the following to be the least risky, most ideal way to start a business in Colombia. Step number 1, nail down pre-registration issues. As we discussed during our first episode in the series, there are several important threshold issues you need to consider before you even begin to structure your new business in Colombia. These include, for example, deciding between a solo proprietorship versus a business entity, figuring out how decision-making will work in your new company, and deciding if getting a visa based on your investment in your business is a key requirement for you. Step number 2, draft a solid business plan. As explained in our second episode, drafting a solid business plan is even more important in a place like Colombia. You want to make sure that it anticipates any number of Colombian-specific scenarios and is flexible enough so that your business can pivot as necessary along the way. Keep in mind that a solid business plan would, by definition, outline a strategy for many of the things we'll be discussing going forward. Step number 3, determine total investment capital. This is a key step because the amount of capital will impact everything from your registration fees to whether you can actually apply for a visa based on your investment. Step number 4, negotiate key business terms. If you're starting a business with other partners, it is important that all parties discuss and agree how to manage any number of key issues in connection with your new business. This includes everything from how to allocate contributions and profits to what happens if a partner wants to exit the business. Failure to do this from the start could create friction between the partners and could lead to some very nasty outcomes. Step number 5, draft key legal terms. Once the partners have decided on key business terms, your local business attorney should draft legal documentation consistent with those terms. This could include company bylaws and a shareholder agreement, though your local business attorney may recommend additional legal documentation depending on your own specific business structure. Step number 6, choose a legal representative. As mentioned in our second episode, choosing a legal representative may be one of the most consequential business decisions you will make as a business owner. If you'll be the sole legal representative, make sure you have a valid visa and a cedula so you can avoid any issues with financial institutions. If you'll be granting legal representative authority to a third party, make sure you trust that person because they will have direct access to your financial accounts. Step number 7, choose registration strategy. Given the often complex logistics involved in registering a company in Colombia, it is important that you nail down how exactly your company will be registered with your local legal service provider. As explained in our second episode, this process could involve signing documentation at a local notary in Colombia, or signing documentation at a foreign consulate, or possibly notarizing and apostilling documentation, or even the transfer of ownership from your local legal service provider to the company's shareholders. Step number 8, determine IP protection strategy. You definitely want to nail down whether you will need to apply for any trademarks or patents in connection with your business. You would want to do this prior to registering your business because this may affect how much capital you will need to get your business off the ground. Plus, it may actually take a while for any applications to be approved, so you will still want to prep this process as soon as possible. Step number 9, confirm regulatory requirements. Before you start a business in a foreign country, you definitely need to understand what kind of regulatory requirements will apply to your business. This includes reviewing whether your business is zoned properly. Again, you definitely want to do this prior to registering your company because this may actually affect the amount of capital required to start your business plus your annual operating budget. Step number 10, register your business. Here, I will just refer back to the process outlined in the third episode in this series. Remember that the actual process can vary quite a bit depending on the location of the entities involved, as well as your own specific business structure. And that's the end of our series focusing on how to start a business in Colombia. We hope you found the information presented to be both useful and practical. From myself and the rest of our team in Colombia, thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest content from our local law firm in Colombia.